So what I want to talk about is the legislative priorities that were established at the Republican State Convention. And I broke them out into three different sections. You have those priorities that are protecting children, you have those priorities protecting our border, and you have those that are protecting our rights. And I recently saw, actually it came from Rinaldi, mentioned it in this, mentioned those items. He didn't specify which one belonged where, so I just sort of wrote those in. I think banning gender modification of children, that certainly protects children. They've gone just crazy that they believe that a 5-year-old knows what he wants to do in 20 years. I don't understand it. We need to stop sexualizing kids. We need kids to be kids. So each one of our priorities, the way that the State Republican Executive Committee, Legislative Priority Committee works is each priority is given to someone to chair as a subcommittee, and then they have other members on that committee that are working in the legislature, and we're starting now learning what is possible in this next session. I've actually gone and talked to each one of my representatives, and as well as representatives that hopefully will get elected come November 8th, about what their priorities are and how they fit in with the priorities that we've established. Parental rights and educational freedom, and I've got on the slide the chairman of that subcommittee and their email address if you want to write them about that. And if you're interested, I guess I can send this, or we can get this sent out in the item that goes together. Protecting our border and protecting Texans. Kelly Perry, who lives closer to the border, that's been her push. We actually had a border summit where we had a lot of legislators in Austin sit and listen to different people about all the craziness and harm that's going on with people being trafficked as well. Protecting our rights, we need to protect our elections. We need to get Stan back in there to do the work, because they're sure not doing the work now. Defending our gun rights, we did get constitutional carry last session, but they keep trying to go after, Beto said he's going after our guns, and I think he says whatever he needs to say to get elected, because every time you hear him, his storyline has changed. They also want to ban Democratic chairs, and that's an interesting one because I did some numbers, and the amount of Democratic chairs that we had last time was not significant. It may, based on where they were this time, it may be more so. Okay, which way does this go? Is that just a, okay. So in banning gender modification, so the legislative priority actually says Texas was banning chemical castration, puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, genital mutilation, body alteration, surgery, psychological social transitioning, and other methods applied to or performed by children. Now, what we've learned since then was our own state rep, House District 130, Tom Alverson, is going to lead the fight on that legislative priority. Representative Hefner and Harrison will also be assisting. Gender modification is just bad science. They have submitted this stuff. They call it science, but it's just bad and they now acknowledge that puberty blockers are harmful. And so in England, they've actually changed their logic and their thoughts on that whole process. Some of the remedies are, let's make it illegal to perform it. Let's strip medical license of doctors that perform it. And an item that I've heard about is transrecmovie.com. I haven't actually seen the movie, but that may be a source for information.
You also need to address hospitals that are forcing doctors to do it.
Well, what we need to do in that case is we need to go, there was a bill that was filed last session, and it was filed by Representative Alderson, and that had to do with conscious objection to such activities. Doctors should not have to perform items such as abortion or anything else that is against their conscience. And I don't think as far as I know, it didn't pass last session, but we need to push and get that passed. So repeal the Texas Penal Code and extend the exemption 43.24, which allows harmful and explicit pornographic materials. And that only occurs, the exemption is for education, the government, and healthcare. And we just need to get rid of this nonsense. As far as the extended exemption goes, Representative Patterson, I believe, is going to file the bill. Representative Toth and Kane are going to be co-authors on the bill. We need to get rid of some of the library. We've done some of the work on some of the libraries. Parents have done that. We need to get a rating system so that it's obvious on the books to know what's good about them and what's bad about them.
And what's appropriate.
And so Representative Alderson and Jean, I believe, are going to be taking on that. There needs to be some work done on the SHAC, Student Health. I'm not exactly sure what the acronym is, but Lacey Hall is a key person that is looking out for children in that area. And we need to get rid of these drag queen events. So parental rights and educational freedom. Parents are the primary decision makers. We always have that. The authority is protected. So why are they doing all this nonsense? We have school choice as a possibility, where the money follows the child with no strings attached. And we need the right of education to be free from social theories instead of indoctrinating kids. So regarding parental rights, Alliance for Defending Freedom is going to write a bill that will file in the Texas House. It should be an opt-in in all cases. There shouldn't have to be this thing where you gotta, if they're presenting something that you'd have to opt out in order to not have the kids see it. Social studies, we've heard a lot about CRT. Americanism versus communism is an interesting item. When I was in high school in Florida, that was our senior class, was actually a study of Americanism versus communism. And now, what I understand is DeSantis is going to be bringing that teaching back into Florida schools. Regarding CRT, Alderson and Toth are going to be working on that. I'm not sure who's going to be working on school choice. Last session we had a school choice bill that was put together by our Senator Betancourt and Mays Middleton. Mays Middleton is now going to be in the Senate, so we need to find somebody in the House to carry that. Valerie Swanson is going to continue her effort on women's sports. We got K through 12 taken care of, but now we're going to try to get college sports done. We've got a lot of new representatives this session. I think somebody said out of the 150 that at least 40, I think, are going to be new freshmen. And among those that are supporting education are Kay Smith, Charles Cunningham. Kay Smith is House District 148, trying to get rid of Morales Shaw, who's actually a devout communist. Charles Cunningham is House District 127 on the east side of town. Terry Wilson is in Galveston. Mark DeRace and Kerry Isaacs are over in Hill Country.
He replaced he is replacing one of the most liberal Republican House members. We're really excited about him.
Which one? Charles?
No, Mark.
Mark? Oh, okay. Who's he replacing?
Lyle Larson.
Okay. And we need to reform PASB or find an alternate. You know, one of the big things that's preventing our work from getting done is taxpayer-funded lobbying, where they pay lobbyists to go to Austin to actually work against us. Abolish abortion in Texas. So we got the heartbeat bill that we passed last session, but there seems to continuously be a push for people that are trying to get things reinstated. One of the things we need to do is stop the federal government from, you know, the court said this is a states' rights issue. It's a states' issue, leave it in the states. They're talking about trying to repeal the 10-day rule that says you only have 10 days to find another facility if a facility says that they're not going to provide care. Here's where the conscious protection, I think, is going to fit under the abolish abortion section for health care. You know, one of the things I would have liked to see is a medical freedom priority, but we didn't get that. Since we're limiting ours to 8. In securing the border, it was interesting that Arizona was filling in the gaps of the wall, and they told the federal government to go take a hike, and we'll see how that comes out. Maybe we'll be able to fill in the gaps. And there's been quite a few counties in the state. I think the number's probably about 25 to 30 now that have declared it an invasion. What's happening now, it really is. You do have 254 counties, but that's where we are. Protecting our elections. We need to restore the felony penalties so that people know that it's a crime and they're going to go to jail, and instead of letting them just get off, like a lot of the AGs are doing now, or the DAs are doing. We need the AG, the Attorney General, to be able to prosecute some of this offenses, and maybe look at getting the DA from a neighboring county to be able to do that. You know, ignorance is no excuse, which is what they said. Well, maybe he didn't know that it was not something that he shouldn't do. When you go down the highway, you're going to get stopped if you have a traffic violation. They're not going to tell you that, you know, you go to court, they're going to say ignorance is no excuse. Well, it shouldn't be for anybody else either. You know, what we got ballot harvesting, the voter rolls, we got dead people, we got fraud, incompetence. We need to get it fixed. One of the places you can go see more stuff about is protectthevote.com. Defending our gun rights. I'm not a gun owner, so I don't have a lot of. It's not one of my priorities that I'm pushing, that I'm going to be working hard on. But it is one, just to make sure that they don't come and try to take us away. Banning Democratic chairs. So I did some numbers on this. So 2021, we had 77 approved legislative priority bills, 19 of which were passed. 8 of those 77 were assigned to a Democratic chair, 5 of which were passed. So there's not a lot of, you don't see a lot of difference whether it's a Republican chair or a Dem chair. But in 2023, I've identified 21 bills from the 2021 session that may apply to the legislative priorities. And of those, 9 are assigned to Democratic chairs, and they're mostly in the area of criminal justice, because I see that to ban gender modification and sexualization of kids, those may reach over into the civil justice arena, which is typically where the Democratic chairs have been assigned in the past. So that's what I got. I guess I'll go back.
Your Tom had. Any questions for Tom?
Just one.
Yes.
What is the, it's mentioned children, protecting our children. What
Yes.
is the age at which a child is no longer a child, an adult? 18?
18.
18. So, when you say children, it includes everyone below the age of 18. Is that correct?
There are some laws that have special stipulations when you get closer to 18. And
Yeah.
I'm not exactly certain what those are, but the focus is, 18 is, they become an adult at 18. Below that, the parents have the responsibility for that child.
Sometimes they can get special dispensation.
Right. So at the age of 12, children can decide which parent they want to live with.
But the parents still involved.
Parents do as well.
Any other questions? Thank you.